John Caney,
Here.
Brad Hoot,
Present.
Betsy Hester,
Here.
Davis Lamb. Davis Lamb. I see Davis, but I think we're having some audio problems. Let's go on down the list. Robbie Adams.
Here.
Liz McLaurin.
Here.
And Andy Reese.
I'm here.
Davis.
Do I have a?
I am here. Am I work? I changed mics. Is that working now?
Yeah, we got
Yes. Good. Do I have a motion to allow us to hold this meeting electronically?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
This is Christy Ransom. We can do this one this way, but in the future, all the votes are going to have to be taken by roll call vote because we are meeting electronically.
I gotcha. Okay, very good.
Sorry.
Any opposed? We're going to assume we've counted you all. The next order of business is the minutes. Do I have any comments or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve. Davis
All
Lamb
right, let's
second.
all right, good. Let's take a roll call vote then.
John Caney. John Caney.
Approve.
Brad Hoot.
Approve.
Betsy Hester.
Yes.
Davis Lamb.
Yes.
Robbie Adams.
Approve.
Liz McLaurin.
Approve.
Andy Reese.
Approve. The motion is carried. Next order of business is item number 1 under the public hearing. Can I have an introduction by the staff of that item number 1?
Sure thing. Item number 2. Marion Yoder is requesting a waiver of Section 4 of the Williamson County Stormwater Management Regulations regarding the Waterway Natural Area for property located at 7538 Caney Fork Road. The owner would like to construct a driveway and run utilities, overhead electric, to a building site on the property. However, there is a stream that has a 50-foot waterway natural area from the top of the bank on each side. The location of the proposed driveway and electric are within the limits of the WNA and Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation requires a 40-foot clearing for overhead electric. The driveway and electric would run parallel with the stream, affecting approximately 600 feet of length of the arena. Per Section 4.2 of the Stormwater Management Regulations, driveways and utilities are not allowed within the WENA except for crossings that are perpendicular to the channel. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a waiver of the Stormwater Management Regulations to construct a driveway and clear for overhead electric utilities within the waterway natural area.
Are there any public comments? Open the floor now for any public comments.
Mr. Chairman, this is Floyd Heflin. We did receive, and I think Michael sent everyone an email that we received from a neighbor to this project.
Does someone have that email and could they summarize it? Or Floyd, do you have it and could you summarize it for this record here?
Michael, do you have that you could put it up on?
I do, yes. Let me do that.
Mr. Chairman, this is Christy Ransom. If we could just put it on the screen rather than the staff trying to paraphrase, that would probably be best.
That would be great.
Okay.
If that's possible.
Can everybody see that okay? I'll zoom in a little bit here. If I can. I don't know how to zoom in on this. It's not.
I think we can zoom in as well so that we're able to read it.
Oh, here we go. All right, I got it. Can y'all read that?
Yes.
It's pretty brief.
Are there any comments concerning this email from any of the board members?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, this is Davis. But I mean, I'm not reading any, is there a specific ask from the correspondence that came in, or just more of an acknowledgement of awareness and shared concerns with what staff had noted?
Yeah, we weren't sure if this actually constituted a formal comment, but we included it anyway. And I think it was just a result of his discussions with Michael.
That's correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Would it be appropriate, he refers to 5 points of concern. Is there a previous email or anything? It's a little vague what he is specifically saying that his concerns are, or that his concurrence refers to. Is that possible and permissible?
I kind of scratched my head on that too. I'm not really sure what that is referring to, because staff didn't put forth any 5 points of concern. And there's the emails previously are basically just, question. I guess it was I think he had called in and I'd sent him the information. Basically, he had the application information, so he may have pulled 5 points out of that. I don't know what the 5 points are though.
Okay. Any other comments from the board on this email? Okay, there being none, let's close the public hearing portion and let's move on to board discussion. The floor is now open for board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, you may wish to ask the applicant if they have some information they'd like to present before the board discusses the application.
Yep, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Yoder. Are you the presenter?
Yes, Mr. Yoder. I'm Jay Yoder. Basically, when I bought this property, this was the understanding. This is where the drive was. It was put in the 60s, is what I was told. There is a washed out culvert where it normally crossed the stream, but I decided to go across the wet weather conveyance versus crossing the stream where the old existing drive was. I was clearing out land. I'd rented a bulldozer, and I didn't realize that I was infringing, that there even was a buffer, until I got your email, which I immediately stopped, which is why the drive is where it is right now. Portions of it have been worked on, other portions have not, because I'm trying to get this resolved with the board, obviously. So, and I put down a seed bed of grass, so I am concerned about erosion. And so as far as like the environmental part of it, I'm gonna try to eliminate anything, make it neutral. But I've tried to buy an easement from the previous landowner and I got a no. So this is my only option, and which is why I'm here today. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Yoder from the board?
Yes, this is John Caney. How much more property are you gonna have to clear for the electric to go overhead up through there.
So your question is, as far as where I'm going to be clearing it?
Well, it needs to be cleared above the road, but it's gonna have to be so many feet right away for the electricity to go up through there.
Yeah, that's correct. Like I said, I stopped everything until I got some type of resolution from this board. So yeah, I realized I need to have a 40-foot, minimum 40-foot, an area that needs to be cleared for the overhead electric.
I had a question for you, Mr. Yoder, and that is the pictures that we got in your application. Was this an existing driveway into the land, or was this a newly created driveway by you?
No, this was an existing driveway that followed the property line to the east. It kind of followed the property line and went up kind of straight north to where the septic area is there. But after getting the bulldozer on the other side of that wet weather conveyance that runs primarily east and west, I realized that it would make a better drive, not as steep. So that's why I went across, and also I wouldn't have to cross the stream, which was another plus, but I plan on running the overhead electric where the existing drive was, which is across the stream and all the way up. And then the drive itself would continue kind of like a northwest, kind of along the contour of the hill, and then cross the wet weather conveyance and shoot back up northeast. Does that answer your question?
Maybe. So we have a stream, we have a driveway next to the stream, and Mr. Caney's question was, where would you be doing additional clearing or additional work to allow for the overhead clearance for the electric? You're already in the Waterway natural area. Would you be clearing downstream, closer to the stream, or would you be clearing upstream for the electric? I don't have a vision of what you're proposing here.
Yeah, all the clearing would be done upstream of the, would not be downstream. I'm already
Uphill, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, uphill, not upstream. Yeah. Yeah, so uphill of the stream is where all the clearing would be done, if any clearing would be necessary, which, yeah, there is quite a few areas that still need to be cleared out, but I waited until I get resolution on this from you guys.
Other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. What's it gonna look like between, I assume there'll be, almost everything will be cleared between the road and the stream because there's so little room and you gotta have 40 feet. So virtually everything's gotta come out between the road and the stream, right or wrong?
Wrong. Everything, I'm gonna run so on the initial part of the driveway, I plan on running the electric on the kind of the west side. And then from there, as it comes up to where it crosses the stream, I'm going to use the existing roadbed, which I'll be not using as a drive. I'll be using as the right of way for the electric, which will be heading north. So I believe I'm almost cleared because I took I cleared out to the west of the initial portion of the drive. So there may be a few trees that I need to cut still, but my plan is to keep it as far away from the stream as possible, except where it crosses over the stream, as far as the overhead electric.
This is Rob Adams. I've got a question. Are y'all done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the way I envision it is basically the electric's going to follow the road that you have lined out here in red, and then the old road cut across the stream, and that's where the electric's going to go to the house site, the yellow. But you took the road on up to avoid crossing the stream and then cutting across above.
That is correct.
Okay, okay.
Yes, John Kenny. When you're clearing the rest of this for the electric, are you planning to clear it with a dozer, or are you just planning to clear it by going in there and cutting the trees down without disturbing the soil?
No, my plan is to cut it by hand. That initial hilltop, I realized how much erosion comes into. I didn't realize how soft the soil was. And from now on, I'll be cutting it by hand just to leave the root system there to, you know, fight against erosion.
Also, on the lower side of the road there, are you gonna try to put in any soil barriers or anything to keep the erosion from washing down into the creek?
Yes, I put quite a bit of brush down there, and also I seeded it, and where needs to. I was talking to Tony Grow, an alternate means than a silt fence. So I was thinking about putting maybe mulch or rock or whatever it takes, basically to. I don't want any erosion at all, because that's just going to create a mess for me down the road, a headache. So I want to put this in once and hopefully never have to mess with it again.
Well, you plan to get this road rocked or paved?
No, not paved. I'm probably gonna put limestone down. I'm probably gonna go with limestone. I mean, we may have to, you know, maybe put concrete or maybe pave it down the road, but right now it's just limestone is the plan.
No more questions right now.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I got another comment. The application says that the activity has no significant effect on water quality. Can you expand that for me a little bit? I'm still not exactly see what you're gonna do between the road and the creek, especially if you need 40 feet of clearance for your power line. The power line's on the creek side of the road, isn't it, for most of it?
No, it's going to be on the uphill from the road is where I plan on running the power line. I'm gonna clear basically to the west side of the road until it clears or goes across the creek. So I'm gonna, or it may be right on the edge of the road. I mean, wherever the 40 feet is, but it is not going close to the creek, where I'm not clearing any more between the road and the creek. I want as much root system there as possible, because that's less rock and other things that I have to put down, and I don't want to deal with erosion at all. Does that answer your question?
So you don't need to do any bank stabilization, you don't think, or?
Right there where it crosses the creek or gets next to the creek, the electric will head north, and the drive will continue to like a northwestern. I mean, that's 8 feet right there where it's right off the creek bank. I don't know what I'm gonna need to do there. Probably put a bunch of rock down, because that's gonna be a huge area where I'm worried about erosion, because that wet weather conveyance runs down into that. I mean, it is rock right there. There's nothing but rock there. I tried to widen that area. I tried to widen that whole hill to get within the 50 feet, but there's no way. I got a couple big boulders out, but that's it. Like, that hill is not moving unless I'm blasting it. So, and I don't want to do that. So and that area right there, I'm probably have to put some large rocks in there to create a place where the culvert, I'm gonna put the culvert in to cross that wet weather conveyance right there at the creek. But other than that, I think I'm in pretty good shape. Does that answer your question?
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
We've got a caller on the phone that has been trying to join the meeting regarding this item. He can't get on, and he would like to speak. What do we need to do about that?
Christy, do you have an answer to that for a caller?
Debbie, is this one that you sent the link to this morning?
No, it's not. It's the adjacent property. It's adjacent property owner. He had the link, been trying to get on, but it won't let him in.
At this point, can he relay his comments to you over the phone?
I'm sorry, this is Christy. Debbie, can he not call in on just a regular phone, not using the link? Just call in with the access for audio only?
I don't know. He said he's been trying to this morning. I've got him on hold right now. I'm sorry.
Is there a way for you to patch him in yourself? Put him on speaker for your call, or?
Let me see if I can do that. Give me just a second, okay?
Are we all in agreement then that we'll hold this discussion in abeyance, go back to the public comment period and allow the general to provide comment? Christy, is that
If the board's in agreement, you can reopen the public hearing and give someone with comments who has access. Otherwise, they can email their comment in, but I mean, we give people a deadline to ask for access.
I guess my question is, was he asking for access in time to make the public part, and it was a technical issue on our part why he didn't get access? If that's the case, I'd like to give him access, I think,
I
personally.
believe it's a technical issue on his part, but yes, it's appropriate for you all to reopen the public hearing to allow him to make some comments, assuming we can patch him in.
Okay, guys, he's merged in.
Okay, I hear you. Okay.
All right, everybody okay? Christy, do I need a motion to do that, or can we just go ahead and do it?
Let's just go ahead and reopen the public hearing because we've all acknowledged what the technical difficulties were.
Okay, yes, sir. Sir, would you please introduce yourself? And you are speaking to the board and to the applicant. Thank you.
Yes, my name's William Tomlinson. I'm a resident on Caney Fork Road, just down from the property, if this is what y'all are discussing right now. And my concerns, I just wanted to see more about what's going on so I'd know. I mean, we own creek property right there. I don't want anything, messing us up down there at our end. You want to do away with the erosion into the creek is what I'm understanding, or they want to waive that or something for a building project right there.
I would like the staff to respond to his questions, if possible.
Yes, so the request is to install a driveway and clear for electric overhead utilities along the, and part of it runs within a 50-foot stream buffer. And then the building site is further back on the property away from the creek, but the waiver is for the driveway and the electric to run within a portion of the 50-foot stream buffer.
But it looks like their property is on the right-hand side of the road. Are y'all going to do something to the bank over there at the creek, or make more erosion down our way in the creek there? I don't understand. They're wanting to waive it because of the creek bank. That's what I was concerned with, because my kids play and swim in the creek. It's already now we got developing going on around us, and every time it rains, a half-inch rain, it looks like a chocolate milk running down through there right now. It didn't used to be that way. That's my concern. But if it's up on that hill, why would that be affecting the creek bank? I guess is what I'm asking. Why are we trying to waive this section?
Well, this is a tributary. This is a smaller creek. This isn't Caney Fork proper. It's a smaller tributary that runs along the edge of Mr. Yoder's property.
Okay, and the driveways. I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Whatever erodes down in there. I mean, how much erosion are we talking going down in there and going back down Caney Fork Creek down our way, and then eventually coming into South Arthur where I live? I'm just curious. Well, this right here will waive them from having to put up this silt fence or erosion booms down through there, right? I mean, is that what this is basically going to do? Is just a waive all that, having to put the silt catch and stuff down through there?
The request is to put a driveway and electric. It's not to waive all erosion and sediment control practices. It's to allow a road and a electric to be within a portion of the stream buffer.
Let me interrupt. I've got to interrupt. Mr. Tomlinson is a personal friend of mine. I think I need to get out of this one. This is Brad speaking.
Okay, Brad, how's it going, Brad? There you are.
Good.
Hey, Brad.
Okay,
Well,
I'm sorry.
right
I'm
down
sorry.
the road
This is
there.
Christy Ransom. I'm going to have to interrupt for just a minute. It's getting a little out of hand. Brad, I'm sorry. You have a friendship with the caller who's speaking as an adjacent property owner to the application that's before us now? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Then at this point, you should probably recuse yourself from the item, which means you need to mute your microphone and turn off your camera. And after we complete this item, then you can rejoin us. Mr. Chairman, since we've reopened the public hearing, if you could allow the caller to finish his comments and questions and then close the public hearing, and staff can respond to any that are outstanding and allow the board to move on to their discussion. Thank you.
I've worked with Brad before.
Very
I
good.
trust his opinion, but all right. I trust his expertise, but I was kind of hoping he'd hear in on that. And maybe
Okay, very good. Would you, sir, would you kind of summarize your comment? I think we understand your comment, and this is Andy
All right.
Reese, Chair.
All right, my comment
I think
is,
we understand. Hang on a second.
Section 4, and I've read Section 4. I've read 4.1, 4.2. I've read all this right here, and it just sounds to me like it's more than just somebody wanting to put some electric up through there. I just want to know what it's going to do to my portion of the creek that we live next to and enjoy every day. What is it going to do to me down here and the rest of the
And when
community
you
as well?
say your portion of the creek, what are you actually referring to? Are you referring to the Caney Fork?
I own property on the Caney Fork and the South Harper River both.
Okay.
And they both connect. It means that this stream is going to connect to my property, the creek that runs through my property as well. And other neighbors as well. I don't know if they're on here or not, but I'm speaking for my community down here, the Fernville community.
Okay, very good.
We would like them.
Thank you so much. I think we've heard your comment, and I appreciate it. Do you have any other substantial comment to make other than expressing your concern to the board concerning short or long-term erosion issues?
That's the concern. What's going to
Okay, very
do?
good. Okay, thank you so much. You can listen in if you like, and the board will now continue their discussion. Do I have a motion to close the public part of this meeting, public hearing part?
Mr. Chairman,
So moved.
at this point, there's no need for a motion.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead then and continue our discussion and reopen the discussion. Are there any other questions or concerns concerning this? And perhaps I could address in a brief summary the public concern that we heard, and that is that the concern of the board is parallel to the concern of all downstream property owners, which is how do we balance appropriate use of land without impacting streams through erosion? How do we minimize that? Is there a possible way of offering a waiver within the understanding of the board? And that's what we're debating right now. The merged goals are protection of the stream at the site and protection of the waters downstream. Are there other comments or questions for Mr. Yoder from the board?
Yes, this is John Caney. On this road, I went out there and looked at it. It seemed like your property line is between the road and the creek. Your road is almost on the property line, and there's no right now, there's nothing to ditch the water that comes off the hill other than it's going across the road and down to the creek. Are you planning to put a ditch on the upper side of that to ditch the water away from the creek or somehow?
Yes. So as I stated earlier, I was working this, trying to put a ditch in on the uphill side because I don't want any water running across the drive. But when I got your email stating that I can't put a drive there, then I waited to do all work until I got resolution from this board.
I guess I got a question for Floyd or something. Does this road have to be a certain distance away from the property line or not?
This is Floyd. Mr. Caney, no, we don't have any, at this point in time, the county does not have any requirements, design requirements for private driveways or setback requirements from property line. There are requirements, you know, since this is not part of a subdivision plat, this is a large acreage parcel, but it's been recently modified from its original configuration. It would be subject to our resource protection requirements when he comes in to get a building permit. So that would apply to like the steep slopes greater than 25%. If they're doing land disturbance in those areas, they're supposed to get a geotechnical evaluation to make sure that slope stability is not an issue. But as far as a setback from the property line, no, there's not a requirement.
Thank you. I have no more questions at this time.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
And it's about the hydrologic determination map. I am afraid I'm pretty ignorant about this, and I would like someone to help me understand it, please. I know hydrologic would refer to the water runoff, but how does it incorporate with the topographical map?
Hey, this is Michael. So I pulled up a portion of the hydrologic determination onto the screen. This is the map. So basically, Tony Grow, who's a qualified hydrologic professional, went out to the site and assessed whether or not the stream in question was in fact a stream or a wet weather conveyance. If you can see the map, and I'll zoom in a little bit, basically what that involves is going out and assessing, you know, the conveyances. And what he found was there were 2 wet weather conveyances on site, but the stream did begin, I don't know if you can see it right here on the map, and from there down to Caney Fork, it flows as an intermittent or perennial stream. Now, the way that and as a stream, obviously, that's when you get the waterway natural area protections. So if I transition over to the site plan here, on the site plan, the surveyor has located the spring to be consistent with Mr. Grove's assessment. And from that point down to Caney Fork proper, you've got an intermittent or perennial stream. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I also wondered if we could get a more detailed hydrologic, or excuse me, topographical map. What is from the road up to the building site? What's the difference between the altitude?
The elevation difference, based on this county map, and it is hard to read. I can't make out the numbers here, but each one of these lines represents 5 feet.
Yes, sir.
So you know, up here we've got 850s, 810s, and down here I mean, I don't know, it's probably just eyeballing maybe 50 feet,
Okay, thank you.
maybe a little more.
Thank you, Michael.
Maybe 75.
Okay,
It kind of depends on where you're talking about, because I mean, if you're going all the way down here, if you go down to the road, it's, you know, you're like at a 700 or lower, and up here you're up at 850. So total difference is like 150 feet. But if you're going up here from the spring, it's probably 50, 60, 70 feet of elevation change.
yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is Liz McLaurin. So I do note that what TDEC came out as a part of the Grow Environmental Solutions Determination. But this has not gone through TDEC permitting, and I asked the staff, is that would be another step? Is that correct?
So this is Michael. So the only real, well, the first requirement is to, you know, have it, you know, submit the assessment to the state, which, you know, we could verify that, but typically, you know, these are pretty accurate. The next thing would just be to, he would, with his crossings, he would have to be consistent with any state ARAP permitting. For an overhead crossing, I don't think you have to formally submit any type of application to TDEC. You would just go based on their general ARAP permits, which are available online, and you can look through those. A raised crossing, you can typically do that without submitting any information. It's only when you have a certain width of crossing, or you're needing an individual crossing, or other things that you'd have to formally submit an ARAP. So in this case, I think he would probably just follow general ARAP permitting.
Thank you.
Michael, will you leave that right there? And it says electric line crossing right in the middle of your picture. Is that presupposing that the electric is on the stream side and then will be crossing? That's not what he stated in his proposal to us.
Yes, that is a crossing of the electric across the stream. Yes, the electric comes up, and I'll go all the way back down here, but the proposed electric comes in, I guess, from the if this is due north, and I'm not sure if it would be the south. Let me make sure I'm looking at this right. Yeah, it comes in from the south here, and it goes up and it follows the creek just, I guess, to the southwest. And then it will cross the stream up in the upper reach right here.
But doesn't follow the driveway all the way up to the house. It takes a separate route across the stream. It looks like it's on both sides of the driveway coming up, and so on. So it's not following the left-hand side of the rising driveway. It's got its own path. Is that a true statement?
Correct. It splits right here, and the electric, and they've the surveyors cross-hatched the areas. That's what that cross-hatching is. But yes, right. They split the power and the driveway at this point.
I guess my question is it a true statement that the electric will always be on the left side and we will not be clearing overhead on the stream side, or is that a false statement?
Well, I think that you're going to have to, I mean, he would have to clear this 40 feet, which is over the creek at this point.
Sure. I'm looking at the rising portion up to that split.
Up to the split. Yeah, up to the split, it's going to stay to the south side. It's going to stay over here from the creek.
Okay. Not sure that that's what it shows, but you have cross hatching that goes on the creek side.
On the north side?
Michael, is
Yeah.
it your understanding, and Mr. Yoder, that entire 30-foot easement, does Middle Tennessee or does the electric utility require that it all be cleared, or will they clear that for you? What's the long-term status of the maintenance of that 30 feet?
Yeah, this is Jay Yoder. The 40 feet has to be cleared by myself, which I plan on doing. But as far as to your question, yes, the driveway on the initial part up to where the electric crosses the stream, the power poles will be on the east, like the southwest side of the driveway. From there, it follows where the existing road runs north along the property line. There is still an existing drive there, but I'm running the power that way, but I'm not planning on taking my drive north. I'm planning to continue on a northwest up towards where it crosses the wet weather conveyance. So yes, I plan on keeping the electric on the southwest side of the drive until it crosses the stream. And that area is already cleared. I may need to do some trimming, but that area is already cleared.
So you're saying there will be no overhead clearing on the stream side of the driveway. Is that a true or false statement?
That is correct. Right there where it crosses the stream a little bit, it's kind of tight, so I may have to clear that area. But beyond that, no, I'm not planning on clearing down toward the stream at all. I'm going to try to push it as far away from the drive or from the stream as I possibly can, except where it crosses there, where I have to clear probably a little bit.
Floyd,
Any other questions?
were you asking about the long-term maintenance, Floyd?
Yeah, this is Floyd. Michael, I knew that you had some understanding about what the utility required as far as that easement goes. Is it same if any easement of theirs, they can come in and clear it if they want, or do they not do that on private property?
Yeah, so what they do is they hire subcontractors, depending on whatever bids, I guess, that they win. But they come out and if you don't keep it clear, they'll hire subcontractors to come out and clear it, at pretty much at their will. And that could include anything from, I've seen, spray to just going out there and just cutting everything. But they're going to keep that, somebody's going to keep that 40-foot right of way clear in perpetuity.
Any other questions? Mr. Lamb, do you have a question?
I guess I wanted to, I've gotten a little bit confused, so I just want to be sure. I want to kind of describe what I think is going on to make sure that I'm grasping it correctly. So based on the visuals we've seen, there is no crossing of the existing stream with the driveway. That crossing is only going to be in the wet weather conveyance area. The electric will cross, but it's going to be an overhead electric. And if there's concern about the encroachment on the WENA, we could look at a different place for the electric to cross, although that might be more intense based upon the contours that I'm seeing. And it's difficult for me to read. So that's me recapping what I think I'm seeing. It's difficult for me to read how close we are or how much we're encroaching in the WENA, but it appears with what Michael's got on the screen right now, that is the very closest place, which is at 8.5 feet. And the rest of the driveway area is further away, but still within that's where I'm not super clear on what the edge boundary, or it's hard to see that baby blue line of how close we're getting to the edge of the WENA itself. So that is a question of how far and what is the encroachment like other than that 8.5 feet, right where the electric and the drive come together. It looks to me like we're 40-ish feet or so, or we're hugging the edge of our 50-foot, I think. I see a 50.4 distance called out.
It's, right, it's 50 feet here. And of course, back in here is also inside of it as well. And he's got some points here and there measured, but you know, he put this in square footage, like 4,088 square feet, but that doesn't help with the distance to it. I would say, you know, it definitely gets, I mean, I could, if you would like, I could scale it. I don't know if that helps.
No, that's helpful. And he's hatched, I guess, the areas that are for focus. I was just trying to make sure I was capturing. We're not crossing. At some point I got confused. If we're not crossing the stream with the driveway, only with the overhead electric. And I do one, I guess, so that I'm not continuing to distract. The other thing that I heard Mr. Caney say, that if we get to a point of talking about a motion that would make sense, is for us to require a high side diversion ditch on the driveway. When we decide to move forward, that's something that's on my mind that I'd like to see us do. So with that, I'll be quiet and listen.
Any other questions, commentary? Thank you for the summary. I was about to think we needed to do that, Davis. I appreciate it.
This is Liz McLaurin. I do have one other just clarifying question. In the summary, the summary states that the driveway and electric would run parallel with the stream, affecting approximately 600 feet of length in the arena. So is that still accurate based on the fact that now, I mean, I now see that there is a split that makes the driveway not cross actual stream, but just the wet weather conveyance. Is that still correct that it's so we're losing, in a sense, half of the buffer, or it's disturbing half of the buffer in the length of 600 feet. Is that correct, Michael?
This is Michael. Well, that's a difficult thing. What I did, just so you understand where that 600 came from, because there's variance within that. Some places it's 5 feet of an encroachment, and some places it's 25 feet, or it's right across it. I basically measured the hatched area that the surveyor had provided. So I went and measured the 170. It's hard to see, but 175 feet here, and this cross-hatched area I measured here at 265 and down there, and I added those areas together. That's kind of where I got the 600 feet. I don't know if that helps or not.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Yeah, yes, this is Mr. Caney. I went out and looked at the site, and the lower part of the road, where at the bottom is a rock bluff there, and I ain't gonna understand why Mr. Yoder went around that way, because it's gonna have to blast the rock bluff down if you do, and that's gonna cause erosion from up above. But to me, and this road is where it was established to start with, and it's going to be hard to control the upper side, getting it sowed down with grass, but there's nothing else you can do there right now but other than that. But I'd like to make a motion on that to let the road stay where it is, have a ditch put on the upper side of the road where the water won't drain down across the road into the stream, put up a silk fence on the lower side of the road, no more land disturbance in the winter. What disturbance will be for cleaning the right of way for the electric will be cutting the trees down, leaving the stumps to help hold the land. And somebody else may want to add something to that right now.
Did anyone take down those conditions or number them. Michael, were you writing when he made those? As I understand it, the motion is road stays, I'm just going to abbreviate, road stays where it is. It's already there. The reasoning is if we do more blasting and move the road, we create actually more erosion and more problems than leaving the road where it is. There will be a ditch on the upstream side of the road to convey water along the road, not into the creek. Clearing on the left side will be done by hand, leaving the stumps, leaving the understory there. And there will be seeding for stabilization everywhere where it's necessary on either side of the road. Is that am I missing something that we discussed? Mr. Caney, did I miss anything there?
No, other than on that road right now, I think we ought to put a silt fence on the lower side until it gets stable.
Yeah, is that part of the general erosion control requirement anyway, Michael? So we don't need to specify that in our motion.
Well, the general erosion control would require sediment barriers on the lower side of the disturbance area, and depending on many different factors, people typically will elect silt fence to meet that requirement.
Okay,
yes.
so us telling them to meet the erosion requirement is sort of superfluous. In a sense, they need to do that anyway, following the county standards, right? Mr. Caney, you okay with that? Setting that one aside as a condition since they're going to do it anyway?
Well, listen, Mr. Kenny, as far as the silt fence or settlement barrier, it doesn't have to be a silt fence. Like Mr. Yoder said, he was going to maybe put rock on that lower side to hold it. It's something that'll be permanent, where a silt fence wouldn't be a permanent thing.
This is Liz McClure. I'm in concurrence with something that would be more permanent than a silt fence. Certainly, during construction of the road, that would be important, but it does, I also visited the site and had just, more than an intuitive sense, but that there would need to be stabilization on that stream side of the road.
Mr. Chairman, this is Christy Ransom. At this point, you have a motion pending without a second. So before there's any further discussion, there needs to be a second if it's going to be a viable motion.
I second
Okay,
it.
I'm just trying to clarify the motion. So we have a second. Any further discussion of the motion? As I understand, there are 4 conditions to the motion other than approval of the road. So it's the road stays where it is, number 1. 2, ditch on the upstream side. 3, a permanent sediment barrier of some kind, protection on the downstream side. What was the 4th one? Oh, clear by, well, we got that. Oh, clear by hand on the upstream side. Not use equipment or whatever. Are those, did I articulate those 4 conditions correctly? Does that seem what we said, Liz or Mr. Caney? Any?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, let's do a roll call vote. Christy?
John Kenny,
Yes.
Brad Hoot. Oh, he is
He's
recused.
recused, Floyd.
Yeah, Betsy Hester,
Yes.
Davis Lamb,
Yes.
Robbie Adams,
Yes.
Liz McLaurin,
Yes.
Andy Reese.
Yes. So the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Appreciate you coming to us and and your efforts to put that home place up there and do it right. Appreciate that so much. Let's move on to the next item then, which would be item number 3. And who will be speaking for that item? Anthony, is that you? Are you speaking?
Yes, I'm Anthony Bryce. I'm an engineer with Resource Environmental Solutions, and I'll be speaking to that item.
Okay, staff, would you introduce the item for us? Then we'll let Mr. Rios speak.
I'm sorry, Andy. Chairman, this is Liz McLaurin, and I am going to turn off my camera and mute because I need to recuse myself as some of this mitigation is on land protected by the Land Trust for Tennessee, for whom I work.
Very good. Thank you so much, Liz.
All right, item 3. Anthony Brace with Resource Environmental Solutions is requesting a waiver of Section 4 of the Williamson County Stormwater Management Regulations regarding the Waterway Natural Area for properties located at 9235 Horton Highway and 6811 Riggs Road. The applicant would like to perform a stream restoration project on approximately 17,000 linear feet of existing unnamed tributaries to Overall Creek and West Fort Spring Creek to improve floodplain connectivity, bed form diversity, lateral stability, etc. The streams all currently have a 50-foot waterway natural area because of the drainage areas are less than 1 square mile. The work has been permitted under an ARAP. However, it also requires approval from Williamson County because it involves the waterway natural area. Per Section 4.3A1 of the Stormwater Management Regulations, stream restorations or improvements are permitted if the location of the stream is not altered. Since the proposed restoration involves the relocation of stream to create channel sinuosity, it requires approval from the Stormwater Appeals Board. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a waiver of the Stormwater Management Regulations to realign stream channels within the WINA as part of an overall stream restoration project.
Yes, thank you for the summary, and yes, that gives an excellent overview of the project and what we're working on with Resource Environmental Solutions. So on 3 pieces of property in the southeast corner of Williamson County, we're working on a stream restoration project, taking existing aquatic resources that have been impaired via primarily historical agricultural land use and trying to increase the ecological uplift and return these aquatic resources into a more healthy, more highly functioning aquatic state. And that primarily involves improving not only the biological parameters of the stream, but also some of the morphological parameters. And as a result of that to improve the morphological parameters, that requires stream realignment in several cases. A lot of these existing aquatic resources have been either manipulated to, i.e. be straightened to maximize agricultural productivity, and/or have also been degraded by years of cattle use. So in order to reconnect these streams to their floodplains and also create a more healthy aquatic ecosystem, that is why we're proposing a stream realignment. And all of these streams after restoration will be placed into a permanent conservation easement that will be forested. And that functions very similar, I guess that functions similarly, or identically to the waterway natural area requirement. And under our requirements from the IRT, the interagency review team that approves stream and wetland mitigation projects in the state of Tennessee, there's a 50-foot minimum, buffer width for a conservation easement as measured from each top of bank of the stream. So before the Stormwater Appeal Board, our main request or asked, as Michael summarized, is approval to realign several of these streams on several pieces of property in Williamson County to increase the ecological uplift associated with our mitigation project. And with that, I open it up to any questions, or if there's any, documents you want me to review, with the group. I'm happy to help any way I can.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. This is Brad Hoot.
Mr. Hood?
In the application about describing the alternate plan, that really just describes the plan you intend to do. What would be the alternate? What would be an alternate? Just leave it like it is, or, and then I wonder if you might expand on the activity enhances water quality, and what sort of ecology would you think you might result in from your, are you going to have rainbow trout by the time you're done, or better snails? Or I'm not an ecologist, so I'm not knowledgeable on those things, and maybe a little bit more on how it's going to improve the drainage. Are we talking about being able to withstand heavier rainfall without eroding? And maybe flesh that out a little more. And one other thing is there, and probably that you said this and I couldn't find it, is, are you still going to run cattle in this area? Thank you.
Sure. So I guess I made myself a list, and I'll start with the, I guess, on alternative analysis. So when we first visited this site as part of our restoration work, what we look for as a mitigation service provider is there's different levels of restoration that might be feasible. The first type of restoration is simple buffer planting, where you just go in, you leave the stream as is, and you just plant trees and reestablish a forested buffer condition that'd be more consistent with the climax ecological community. A second option is restoration in place, whereas we would not move the stream channel, but we would do certain techniques to try to raise the bed of the stream in place to improve ecological function. And by ecological function, I'm primarily speaking towards giving water the ability to access its floodplain and get out into, I guess, adjacent field properties, et cetera. And the third option is what we're proposing is, I guess, in the industry term, priority one, and that is an offline restoration of an impaired aquatic resource that reestablishes a appropriately sized geometry. A lot of the streams that we're talking about in question have been oversized, I guess, compared to what are reference conditions in this ecoregion in the state, and moving it offline to, I guess, also enhance the aquatic function by giving it floodplain connectivity again. So those are kind of the three alternatives that we look for as we, I guess, investigate a site for a stream restoration project. And we love to do the third option because it provides the most benefit. You get an appropriately sized channel, it gets floodplain access, and the third primary benefit is it makes construction easier. When you build offline, we can avoid impacts to the existing channel by being able to construct in the dry, essentially, so that sediment, runoff, etc., from our construction activities don't immediately enter the existing waterway, and it can be conducted in a dry, kind of closed state. And then once it's completed, we can turn the water back on and have it flow through the new channel. So I guess, does that answer your first question in terms of the alternative kind of analysis approach that we looked at?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So then moving on to ecology. So on each of these projects, how it's currently set, these are streams on an agricultural property, I guess, with cattle access. So I guess post restoration, this kind of speaks to a latter question. Although this landowner can still use his property for, I guess, for agricultural cattle purposes, our conservation easement and I guess by context, the waterway natural area around the stream will be fenced and cattle will be excluded. So in that sense, what we're hoping to improve ecologically is a variety of species, from macroinvertebrates to small arthropods, isopods that live in the stream, try to get a more diverse community if possible to recruit them back, and also a lot of the smaller fish species, the darters, etc., that might require a higher water quality, less sediment type system that maybe now can recolonize this reach post restoration. And as part of our biological investigation of this site, we did conduct an existing conditions fish survey, and I guess post restoration we'll continue those efforts to kind of monitor the change in the fish community on this site. And like I don't believe we'll transform the system, like you said, like rainbow trout, or it won't become I guess a fishing stream, for lack of a better word, but we're hoping to recruit a lot of the native species back and get a higher percentage of native species in our restored environments. I guess, does that answer the second question about ecology?
Yes, it does. What kind of ecology you've got in there now? Just
So we've got,
crawdads, slugs, and snails and stuff?
yes, I guess not surprisingly, we shocked out a snapping turtle, green frogs, southern leopard frog, and there actually were a couple darter species, particularly on what's shown now on the right side of this map, on the Duck River side. There are a couple darter species that actually were present in the degraded stream channel. So our hope is that we'll provide a better quality habitat for those species moving forward. And then some other minnows, shiners, etc. So I guess then moving on to the flood conveyance aspect of the project. So the goal of our restoration is to take a site that I guess has overwide in size channels and give the stream then access to its floodplain. So the idea is that in a flooding scenario, instead of having all the floodwaters confined within the stream channel itself, they can expand the bank and naturally attenuate in the floodplain. And by giving a stream access to the floodplain, that water can be used for breeding habitat for amphibians and those type of species that is kind of stored naturally in those kind of lower depressional areas out of bank. So that's our approach from the, I guess, the floodplain management side. And I should mention this property is not in a regulated FEMA floodplain or floodway, and the regulated I guess component starts downstream of our property. Does that answer address your concern on the I guess the conveyance side of things?
Yes, and probably high water, high rain events are probably not affecting this that much anyway. Is that fair statement?
I guess on this piece of property, the only impacts of a high rain event will be the landowner and his ability to, I guess, move cattle around the site. I guess that's the only impact that I'm aware of from I guess a high rainfall condition, and it's something that I guess he has been working with in his agricultural practice for some time.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I guess on the last piece in terms of cattle, so yes, both of these properties right now are an active cattle operation. Cattle and goats are on both properties. And moving forward, this property is still privately held, so that cattle operation will not change. However, in the areas of our conservation easements, which will be forested, cattle will be excluded by a fence, and they will only be permitted to cross the stream via designated crossing areas that will be gated as well. So in essence, the goal of a stream mitigation project on this site is to exclude cattle in perpetuity from the stream. And then once RES, my company, finishes our monitoring of the site, which is over a 7-year period, this property is then passed off to a long-term steward who then maintains that similar level of diligence to make sure to make sure and watch over the site to confirm that there are no impacts from cattle, etc. If the fences are maintained so that the stream quality is continued to be improved over time.
Will your firm be overseeing the work?
Construction, our firm will be overseeing the construction effort. We haven't selected a contractor yet. Our company both uses a variety of internal and external contracting partners, but as the engineer of record for this project, I'll be watching over it to make sure that all erosion and sediment control specified in our plan are maintained, and our construction is being conducted in accordance with our, I guess, design and engineering documents. And then ultimately, I guess, post restoration, like I mentioned, we have a 7-year monitoring period that that ecologists and myself will be on site to monitor the site and fix any problem areas and identify, I guess, how our stream is responding to restoration.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other questions for the presenter?
Yes, this is Mr. Caney. From the starting of redoing the streams to the time you're gonna fence it, how long will that be, or are you gonna try to do it in sections?
Yes, so the construction will be sequenced in sections. So basically, once we start going, I guess once we move into the portion of the project where we're constructing a particular reach, that reach, I guess, well, before we start construction, likely the fence will already be installed, or it will be installed as construction moves down to keep cattle out immediately after a new piece of stream is constructed. So I guess in short, I guess once we start construction on any particular reach, cattle will be excluded from that point forward.
All right, you said when this project was ended, and y'all will be over it for 7 years. Is it any guarantee this land gonna be not subdivided in 7 years, or it's gonna be put in a land trust or something like that?
So in terms of that, this conservation easement that is established prohibits any use of the pieces of this particular property, I guess, for anything really other than, I guess, foot traffic through the easement. So in essence, the portion of the project that we're restoring will not be able to be subdivided. You can't put a road through it. You can't put a house on it. You can basically just access it for passive recreation, hunting, fishing, hiking, nature watching, etc. So that prohibits any of those land uses. But in those areas outside of our easement, that is, I guess, that is up to the landowner, I guess, moving forward to decide what they ultimately do with it. But our portion of the project within the conservation easement is under permanent protection.
All right, in the conservation easement along the stream, did you say it's gonna be fenced 50 foot on either side of the stream?
Approximately. So that's the minimum buffer width, I guess, the minimum on average buffer width that needs to be established per our requirements. But yes, so at a minimum, there's going to be an average of 50 feet on either side of the stream that will be fenced moving forward to protect the mitigation project and exclude cattle.
No more questions this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for the presenter? All right, I had a couple for you. Great presentation, Anthony. A couple of questions for you. One is, you talked about the future of the land. Is there an allowance? You have low water crossings now for cattle. In future development, is there an ability to put crossings at those low water crossings for, let's say, residential access, or will the roads forever and always have to go around your conservation easements?
I guess if I am being honest, I don't know the exact answer to that question right now. I guess as the project is concurrently, I guess, being designed and developed, like you mentioned, we provide breaks within the easement, and those breaks, typically 30 feet wide, are to be used by the landowner, I guess, for crossings, and I guess either be it a low water crossing, I guess primarily a low water crossing. In there's several places to allow access to, I guess, different portions of the pasture. And I guess then moving forward, I am not sure if, let's say, I guess a house wanted to be put on that north central field, for example, above what we're showing as STR2, if we would have the opportunity to expand and or, I guess, further improve that crossing across the stream to a maybe more of a formal bridge. I believe, and I guess don't quote me on this, and I can provide the board additional information, but that type of request would have to be approved by the IRT for this project, the interagency review team, I guess, to make sure that it wouldn't cause a detrimental impact to the stream and wetland, or to the stream restoration resource that we have. Right
Okay.
now,
Well,
I guess right now they've improved, they have approved these low water crossings and these easement breaks, but we haven't put forth like a plan to, I guess, put a formal, I guess, a more formal access road across them.
okay. Well, I'm sure the land trust has a policy there, and we don't need to be labored. I just wondered, I had a second question. It shows that there'll be soil piles scattered in a few places. What is the long-term use of those? Will they be stabilized? Are they going to be big piles of dirt sitting around in the field? What is your thought there?
So the idea of those locations is, I guess, from this work to identify several places where if there is excess cut, so I guess by consequence of moving the project offline, there might be excess material generated that I guess that needs a home on site. So these places were identified by the landowner as existing kind of either, so several of them are existing pond, like a former pond footprint, kind of these existing, what am I trying to say, notches in a hillside that kind of these eroded type gully areas on a hillside that were identified as places to put material, that excess cut, temporarily, I guess not temporarily, permanently stabilize them, either via, I guess, really whatever it takes to get a permanent vegetative cover to establish, and then leave those areas in perpetuity. And during construction, those areas will be protected by temporary perimeter best management practices, silt fence or erosion control, wattle at a minimum. And I guess additional measures will be employed as needed to prevent erosion.
Yeah, that's fine. So your response is they'll be stabilized and left in place.
Yes,
for some future use. Okay. I had another question, and that is, how will the cattle be watered if you're taking away the streams? What is the plan? And if the plan is that they're going to be naturally watered as they do the low water crossing, does that work out okay? I've seen that not work okay in the West, so I'm just asking that question. Is there going to be a sort of an artificial pump watering system where when they stick their nose into it, water flows, or what's the plan there?
Yes, and again, that's not shown in this plan. I apologize, but yes, there is I can provide that if needed. There's a proposed watering system as part of our, I guess, our work on this project. We are prohibited from cattle using the stream as a watering source, so that is why those areas are to be fenced and gated, and only used for crossings. And we're providing a separate vehicle to give the cattle water.
Yep. Next quick question. You show several drop structures and you're decreasing the slope of the channel through sinuosity. Is the purpose of explain the purpose of the drop structures and their long-term viability, because they're all made out of natural materials. I'm just a little concerned that they're going to wash out and we'll start getting head cuts moving up through that system. Can you help me understand that real quickly?
Sure. So are you referring to drop structures within, I guess, the alignments themselves, kind of in the middle of the alignment, or the drop structures at the tie-ins to, I guess, what I refer to as STR1, which is on the very right side of your screen, where I guess four and two come together.
That far. I just looked at the plans for the drop structures, and again, I have experience with natural drop structures washing out or rotting and then washing out, which means we typically always put a hard point in a drop structure. So I just wondered, thoughts on the drop structure, and is there any concern, you know, in the 7 to 10 to 15 years in the future that it will wash out and then you get a head cut, start working up through the system again? Question.
Sure. So I guess to speak to that, our intent on the project for the drop structures is to lose grade essentially as the stream kind of flows down the valley. So typically on average, if let's say the bank full slope, so the slope of the valley itself is sloping at 1%, typically we want to have our riffles be approximately twice that. So a stream is composed of a riffle and pool segments. So, and the riffle might be then sloping at 2%, but if we need to then lose additional, if we don't want to have the riffle be too steep, we might place in a drop structure to lose grade, in essence. So that's kind of the preface or the background of why there is a drop structure, to avoid our riffles being too steep, and a too steep riffle has a tendency to unravel over time and cause the head cuts that we're trying to avoid. So the idea is to place a drop structure in. So those structures either are made of rock or logs, depending on material availability. So on this project, for example, we're trying to use a combination of rock and log drop structures. And again, on the permit level plans, they were all shown as logs, but as we've moved the design further on from that point, and right now we're looking at a variety of rock and log structures. And both these structures will be keyed into each stream bank to prevent cutting around them. And they'll also be keyed, I guess, vertically to try to prevent water from short circuiting underneath and undermining the structure that way.
Okay,
And
so
again,
I get that. I'm just, my question really didn't have to do with the construction, had to do with the construction of material.
Yes, and then
Are natural drop structures viable for 20 years, 30 years?
yes, and the idea is that the woody material, if kept submerged, will not, I guess, break down. The challenge that we've seen is that when we have a log structure, for example, in a stream that might not have sufficient hydrology, or may only be wet for a short time of the year, and then there is an increased risk of, I guess, degradation of those structures. But I guess moving forward long term, that's the idea of having a long-term steward for the project that overlooks and oversees the project over time, and a monitoring budget, I guess, for that long-term steward to do repairs if needed, as they come up over time. As one of the challenges is in the stream restoration industry is really being able to predict 10, 20, 30 years into the future, given the variability of the kind of the natural environment, natural world. It's hard to predict what exactly will happen, but that's why there's monies available for future maintenance set aside at the start of each of these projects.
Gotcha. Last question, probably everybody's breathing a sigh of relief. Last question is, you say you're doing construction in the dry, yet the overlay of the sinuous stream is on top of the existing stream. Can you help me understand the seeming contradiction in what you said and what you've shown?
Sure. So in those places where where I guess there is some overlap between the proposed and existing stream alignments, well, those sections of streams will be conducted in the dry via a pump around. So there's a detail in the plans, but basically to put a coffer dam and a pump upstream of the work area for the day, and then pump the existing stream channel around to a downstream, I guess, point, maybe 300 feet downstream, for example, dewater the existing stream channel via pumps and place that into an appropriate, I guess, either pumped water filter bag or some type of way to get the sediment out before the water is discharged.
Pump around's a great answer. Just was asking this. Are there any other questions for the presenter? If not, let's close that portion of it and go into our board consideration. Do we have a motion based on what you've heard from anyone?
Mr. Chairman, this is Christy Ransom. We need to confirm that there's no one from the public who wishes to speak on this item.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Were there any emails or other input, Floyd or Michael?
This is Floyd. No, we didn't receive anything on this item.
I just got one call from the property owner. I think he was curious about what it was about, but no comments.
Very good. Any other public input? Seeing none, we close the public portion. Let's move into our board discussion. Do we have a motion?
This is Mr. Caney. I think I got one more question, maybe for the applicant, because once this gets established and they're talking about putting in waterers for cattle, are they going to be able to put a water line across these easements or not?
So I believe the intent is to use existing or proposed wells and drill a well to provide the water that way, and not not necessarily use a water line, but I believe if needed, we can place a water line through the easement break.
All right, a conservation easement, is that run out in so many years or is that permanent for life?
I believe it's permanent for life, and I can request if it, I guess, more clarification from our legal counsel on that, but I believe it's permanent for life on the property.
All right. That's all the questions I got, right?
Thank you. Back to the request. Is there a motion concerning this applicant?
I move to approve the applicant's waiver.
Do I have a second?
This is Mr. Kenny, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, can we have a roll call vote, please?
John Kenny,
Yes.
Brad Hoot,
Yes.
Betsy Hester,
Yes.
Davis Lamb,
Yes.
Robbie Adams,
Yes.
and Liz McLaurin has recused. Andy Reese.
Yes. Motion carries. Next order, is there any other old or new business? Christie, is there anything else other than old or new business?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any other old or new business from any member of the board? Seeing none, do I have a
I'll make a motion, we adjourn then.
second? All in favor, not, we have a second, okay. All in favor, do we need to roll call this or can we just nod and smile? Christie's thumbs up, so moved. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Davis.